All right, number 14. So this might seem like a hard question, but it's like quite straightforward. Like all of this information here, all of that information is pretty useless. All you need to know is you just need to read this final question here. Which of the following gives the speed of the object in terms of other quantities? And like if you look at all the answer choices, they're all like in forms of equations. And like this tells me that it's gonna be it's gonna be like a isolating quantities question, where you just have to rearrange all of the terms to one side to isolate for one of the variables. And I guess that the only piece of information that you need from this is that you need to know that v refers to the speed, because that's going to tell you that you need to isolate v by itself. So to isolate this equation, we're going to first divide both sides by s. It's going to give you L over S over 1 minus v squared over c squared. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides, because I want to get rid of this square root over here. I don't really like that square root, and I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to get rid of the square root, I'm going to square both sides. Alright, and then, so by squaring the L over S, that means that the numerator gets squared and also the denominator gets squared. And then by squaring this square root, the square root disappears. It's going to be 1 over v squared minus c squared. And then after that, it's going to be, you're going to subtract both sides by 1. It's going to be L squared minus S squared minus 1 is equal to negative v squared over c squared. And then, let's see, I'm going to multiply both sides by c squared. So it's going to be c squared over L squared minus S squared minus 1, and it's going to be negative v squared. And then now I'm just going to divide everything by that negative. It's going to be negative c squared over L squared minus S squared minus 1. And that's gonna give me v squared. And then after that, gotta square this whole thing. So it's gonna be square root of negative c squared over L squared minus S squared minus 1. That's going to be equal to v. And let me just look at the answer choices. So I know that c and d are gone, because like there's definitely going to be a square root in the final answer. And so, wait, I need to simplify this a bit more. So I could move this c squared. I can move that c squared outside of the square root, because c squared, the square root of c squared is c, so I'm going to move that outside of the square root. It's going to be c times the square root of negative L squared minus S squared minus 1 on parentheses, and that's going to be equal to v. And then you could distribute this negative sign inside the parentheses. Is the final answer, I hope I'm right on this, the final answer is going to be negative L squared over S squared plus 1. That's going to be equal to v. So let me just check if that's there. Okay, wait. Oh wait, okay, you can also write this as c times the square root of 1 minus L squared over S squared. That's equal to v. And so I think that's the final answer. But let me check real quick. So it's c times the square root of 1 minus L squared. Oh yeah, it's this one. 1 minus L squared over S squared. So it's got to be A. So yeah.